say at the beginning, which you couldn't hear, that we do not have the facility today for me to be able to answer when you put your hands up, which is why, of course, all of you were putting your hands up because you couldn't hear me. So thank you for trying to inform me. So let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about safety. Some of you may feel this is something we've covered. We know about safety. But safety is the absolute beginning of our healing journey. I don't feel safe. I can't start to feel. I don't feel safe. I am cut off from myself. If I don't feel safe, I can't even know what people around me are feeling, let alone what I'm feeling myself. So feeling safe is an absolute essential. And that is why when you first go to a counselor, when you come here for a healing week, whenever you start on the journey of healing, understanding what it is to feel safe and knowing what you need to do in order to feel safe and knowing how to protect yourself when you are not feeling safe are really, really important things in the journey of healing. So that's why I'm really happy to start off with 5 aspects of safety. So the first one, and you'll see it up on the slide, is why we need to feel safe. We need to feel safe in order that we can start on the healing journey. And I kind of want to add, we need to feel safe because we deserve to feel safe. Because when we were kids, most of us had many occasions when we did not feel safe. So we very well know that feeling of not feeling safe. We know what it feels like for the world to be an unsafe place, and we deserve to feel safe as adults. And as we begin to feel truly safe as adults, truly love ourselves, feel truly capable of keeping ourselves safe, that's when we are really beginning to get somewhere on our healing journey. When we allow other people to threaten our safety, when we can't recognize our signs of feeling safe, when we allow ourselves to be around unsafe people, that is when we are not loving ourselves enough, in my opinion. So today is perhaps a little quick check for all of you to say, do you love yourselves enough to keep yourself safe? Because if you don't keep yourself safe, then you won't be able to continue on your healing journey. So that's the first point in the 5 aspects of safety, which you will see up in front of you. So let's now talk about finding a safe place. In the beginning of the healing week, we say to people, do you know what it is to feel safe? Do you know how to feel safe? And do you know how to find a safe place? A safe place is a place where I can go on my own, without animals, without people, always because God is within me, but I can go and be able to feel safe. I can protect myself. In my safe place, I am protected. In my safe place, no one can get at me. No one can come into my safe place without permission. It is my place for me alone. And each of us deserves and needs to have a safe place. Now, our safe place can be physical or it can be in our imaginations. And for many of us to start with, our safe place has to be in our imaginations. The safe place, which is a physical one that we can actually go to, usually reflects what was safest to us as a child. So for me, inside as a child was not safe. Nighttime for me as a child was not safe. So my safe place is outside in the daytime and where I can see in every direction, so I can see that nobody, but nobody, is coming into my safe place. And if anyone came into my safe place while I was there, I think I'd actually feel violated. It would be deeply upsetting to me. So I need it to be somewhere. So if someone is coming, I can say, please don't come. I actually don't want anyone right close by me right now. Early in my healing journey, when my first psychologist said to me, you need to find a safe place, I found that impossible. I found it a concept that was just too remote for me. But I did manage to create a safe place for myself in my imagination. And that safe place was up in the clouds on a golden chair, completely surrounded by love. And I could go there at times when I felt threatened. I could go there at times when I felt unsafe. I could go there at times when I was feeling overwhelmed. I could then take a whole lot of deep breaths, whole lot of deep breaths and say, I'm safe, I can look after myself, I'm okay. And I begin to feel calm and the overwhelm begin to lessen. So that takes me on to my next point, which is recognizing the signs of not feeling safe. Now, Elizabeth, you've raised your hand, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer it. So I'm just going to tick that you've raised your hand. And I do apologize that this time I can't actually answer questions when you raise your hand. We will make this available in future seminars. So, recognizing the signs of not feeling safe. Do you know? Do you know what the feeling is? Do you know when you don't feel safe? If I asked you to pause right now and just write down, when do you not feel safe? And just sit, see if you can just sit and think of occasions or an occasion when you have not felt safe.
Is it going around?
Okay, we seem to have some interrupting noises coming in there, but I hope that you're just thinking of a time when you didn't feel safe. When you've thought of a time when you didn't feel safe, can you recognize what happens to your body when you don't feel safe? Can you recognize anything in your stomach, in your head, in anything about yourself when you don't feel safe?
There must be actual bushfire.
Again, I apologize. We're obviously getting some sort of a cross sound going on, so we'll all just try to ignore it, okay? So,
The
what happens when
firefighters
we don't feel safe is to remind you of the impact of trauma on the brain. When we don't feel, hold on one second,
Yes,
when we don't feel safe. Now, Sky, you seem to have clicked your microphone. No.
Yeah.
Don't know exactly what's happening, troops, so I'm just going to try and keep carrying on regardless.
Talking about
signs of not feeling safe means that my sympathetic nervous system, just one second, and I'm just going to.
That's awkward.
So could I please ask everyone to look up on the webinar and you'll see a microphone. Could you please all kindly switch off your microphones? Because at the moment, apparently, some people haven't been able to hear me because somebody's been having a conversation across me. So this is getting rid of a few glitches today, isn't it? So has everyone kindly switched off their microphone? And I'm just going to, okay, so I'm now going to continue, but I'm going to continue from where I was up to because it was being recorded and you can all catch up on any bits that you couldn't hear previously. So we're talking about the recognizing the signs of not feeling safe. The signs of not feeling safe is because your sympathetic nervous system goes onto high alert. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is the part of your system that sets you up into being ready for fight, flight, or freeze. It is the part of yourself which gets you tense, that gets every part of your body ready to defend yourself. When we don't feel safe, then our sympathetic nervous system goes on high alert. When our sympathetic nervous system is on high alert, our cerebral cortex, that's the thinking part of our brain, gets disconnected. When we're not feeling safe, that means we're not able to think properly or sensibly. We also get disconnected from our emotions because we can't feel when we're not safe. So it just gets locked inside you. That's why sometimes when we're not feeling safe, we're not actually able to get out of the situation because we call it being triggered at Heal for Life. In other words, we get triggered and we can't actually change the situation because we are so overwhelmed by the fear, which is created because we're not feeling safe. So whenever you get a feeling in the pit of your stomach, whenever you start feeling a bit disconnected from people, whenever you start not feeling your emotions, All of these are signs of not feeling safe. And I think it's really important that all of us get to the stage of being able to recognize when we don't feel safe. Often, in the first time people come for a healing week, they'll suddenly say in the first couple of days, I actually have never not felt safe. I do not know what it feels like to feel safe. Now, if you don't feel safe all the time, it means your whole immune system can't work. It means you're not in touch with your body and yourself. Think about that. If you're one of the people who thinks that you don't ever feel safe, first step to take you back, try and create a safe place either in your imagination or physically find one and start working towards loving yourself enough to allow yourself to feel safe. Now, one of the problems that many of us have is unsafe people. Now, another brain bit, which we will cover when we get to the brain webinar, but there is a part of our brain which is called the superior temporal region, and that is larger in survivors than it is in other people. Now, that intuits to us, it makes us aware of what other people are feeling or thinking. It makes us much more aware than other people are of a person who is not safe. So we can look at someone and think, oh, I feel really uncomfortable looking at that person. I feel really unsafe if we're able to put those words in it. Trust your instinct. Your instinct is better than ordinary people. Those of us who have survived abuse are very, very good at intuiting what is not a safe situation or a safe person. It's really terrible. I always get quite cross that we try and almost train this out of children by saying, when they're saying hello or goodbye to a relative or one of our friends, we say, kiss so and so, you must say goodbye, and all the rest of it, rather than allowing children to respect what it is that's happening for them. Children are very good at intuitively knowing who's safe and not safe because they are still so much living in their right brains, in their unconscious brains. If you remember, the right brain is the part of the brain that is dominant for the first 3 years of life. So tiny children are particularly clever about it. As you may have noticed, how they say they don't want to say hello to somebody, but they're happy to somebody else. Could I ask any of you who are mothers to never insist a child feel something about anyone, but to really notice when they say that someone is not safe? So when we allow ourselves to be with an unsafe person, we set our systems on high alert, we invalidate ourselves, and in a sense, we're not loving ourselves. Many of us have family situations where we have to, or we feel we have to, be with someone who is not safe, maybe even our perpetrator, because maybe the rest of the family is not acknowledging that that person is a perpetrator. So, can I ask you to really sit with yourself? Because if we allow ourselves to be with an unsafe person, then we automatically suppress the feelings that we could be feeling because we're on high alert. And that will lead in days after seeing that person to depression, anxiety, panic attacks, bad dreams, all sorts of stuff that none of us deserve when we're on our healing journey. And you really have to weigh up to yourself, if you're going to see an unsafe person, am I prepared to accept and know these are going to be the consequences? Or if I'm going to have to see an unsafe person, what am I going to do to acknowledge myself and release my feelings after I have been with that unsafe person? And that's quite hard to do after you've been with them because your system will have partially shut down. And I really suggest if you have to be with someone who is unsafe, as I say, perhaps a member of the family, then afterwards you really allow yourself to lock yourself in a bedroom or something and bash a pillow and say how horrible that person is, anything to release the feelings. Otherwise, those suppressed feelings will express themselves in headaches, in depression, perhaps in drinking too much, perhaps in gambling, perhaps in any of the addictions any of us take on in order to cover up our pain. I really ask you to think about recognizing unsafe people and not being around unsafe people. Which leads me on to my fifth point before I get to these questions. And I'm a bit lost to time because of stopping and starting, so I hope I'm keeping it to the right sort of time. Boundaries towards feeling unsafe. Well, you've probably picked up a few. A boundary towards feeling unsafe is setting up what we call, I'm going to now show you another drawing, which is going to be a hug circle. And when you look at this hug circle, I want to describe it to you. Many of you may know it, but I want you to really look at it. Okay. Takes me a moment to bring it up. Here we are. Now, this hug circle we do with our guests at Heal for Life. And it's a way of recognizing when you feel safe and when you don't feel safe. But I've brought up the wrong slide, so forgive me for one moment, and I'm just going to collect the other one. It's very hard often to really recognize who is safe and who isn't safe. And I think someone has again turned on the microphone, so please turn off the microphone. Someone behind us, could you make sure you turn off your microphone before you listen anymore to this seminar or to this workshop, whatever it is. Okay, here comes the hug circle, everyone. So do have a look. The hug circle consists firstly of an inner circle. That now you can see it. That inner circle is me. Now, I want you to draw after this session. I really warmly suggest you draw this and just do this exercise for yourself. So in the very inner circle is me. And I want you to write in that anyone with whom you would share the most intimate details of your life. Anyone with whom you would share everything. Many of us do not have anyone in that circle. So don't worry if you don't have anyone in that circle, that's fine. The next circle that we have is the cuddle circle. That is someone who you are happy to cuddle, someone who you can let hold close to you, someone that you will share some things with, but not necessarily everything. I want you to write in that when you do this later, in that bit, anybody who you genuinely know. And again, could someone please turn off their microphone? Now, the next section is the hug. Hug circle. Please turn off your microphone, everyone. The hug circle is people you could give a hug to. You're not going to give them a cuddle, but you will certainly give them a hug. You know, just a sort of hug, hello, quick chat. You're not going to share intimate things with them, but you can be fond of them. The next circle round is the handshake. These are people that you would shake hands with. People who, if you saw them, you would just shake their hand and say, hi, nice to see you. You might speak to them for 5 minutes, but you're not going to have any sort of an intimate relationship with them. Then the next circle is wave. Those are people you just wave at in passing. You know, hi, how are you? You don't want to stop and talk to them. You don't need to be involved with them. And then on the outside, you write all the people who you don't really want in your life at all. Now, I do invite you to do this because when you do it, and I found this, it's really interesting that who you put where. And come from your right brain, not your left brain as you do it, as you consider which people you would put where. And when you have done that, can I invite you to be honest? Can you honor yourself and try to follow your hug circle? This is an exercise that's really good to do more than once. It's really good to do once a month, once every 3 months, because people do change and we change in our attitudes towards people. But if you sit and do it and allow yourself to be in silence for 5 minutes before you do it, you will find some interesting answers. So that is the hug circle. And that now brings me to, I'm going to take away that aspect for safety and bring up the top list again. Now, as I bring up the top list, I'll just bring up the original one, question and answers. This is the time now when we're going to talk. People are going to ask me questions, or I'm going to respond to some questions that have already been sent to me. So the first question is, I have identified with a little boy and girl as my inner children. They would like me to spend all day keeping them safe. How can I satisfy them and complete all the demands of being a single mum? Okay, our inner children are like our own children. Just as we wouldn't with our own children just spend all the time with them, we have other things to do. I think we have to set the same boundaries with our inner children. For our inner children, in the same way, we have to say, look, I can give 10 minutes to you now, and we have to give what we say. If we say 10 minutes, it has to be 10 minutes, not 5. But then it's quite okay to say, I now have other responsibilities. Early on, when I first started speaking in public, I used to say to my little girl inside, sit in the front row and I'll pick you up in an hour's time. And that's what people do. Um, pause this for. Okay, here I am back again. Okay, the next question is, every day for me is built around providing a happy home for my 13-year-old son. How can I practically keep myself feeling safe when with what little energy I have is devoted to my home and son? I think for all of us, we have to make some decisions. One of the decisions we have to make is recognizing that we actually have value. I have an innate value as a human being, just as my children do, just as my friends do, just as my husband do. As a survivor, I tend to put my needs last. I put my needs last because I think I don't matter. I learnt that as a child. I don't matter, so I don't give myself any time. Healing is recognizing I do matter. Healing is recognized my 13-year-old son needs time, my home needs time, and I need time. Please, I really ask everyone, we always say, the more time you give to your healing every day, the more time you give to your healing every day, the more healing you will be able to embrace. Unless you allow time for that healing, you won't heal. Unless you allow time for yourself, you won't be able to heal. You're giving out to everyone that you need to receive into you. So please give time to yourself. The next question is, can you please elaborate on what you mean giving myself time? And what are the practical steps to looking after my emotional well-being? Okay. Giving myself time is exactly that. It's finding a space that is your space, that's your safe place, explaining to your children if they're old enough to understand, and certainly 12-year-olds are, this is my space and my time, and I am not to be disturbed unless there's an emergency. Giving myself time is saying to myself at least once a week, what do I want for me? What will give me joy this week? Is it watching a movie? Is it, for me, it's going for a ride on my horse. For others, it might be, I'm sewing, it might be swimming, but whatever it is, it's stopping and asking yourself. And for those of us who have deprived ourselves for so long, it is often very, very difficult to identify, what our needs are, very difficult to allow ourselves to even know what will give us pleasure and what is giving myself time. It's something we only get with practice. So, what I highly recommend, once every day, every single person listening says to themselves, sits down and says, what do I need for me today? Which is what we do every morning in Reflections at Heal for Life. And it's amazing how hard it is for so many people to think what they need. The next question in the remaining few minutes, I guess my struggle is more feeling safe from myself. And maybe how do you feel safe when you are around people who remind you of unsafe or were unsafe? I don't feel safe within myself. I feel like I need some external sense of safety before I can learn that, but I don't have that either. I'm just messed up a bit there. Or we'll forget the last bit, that's just you putting yourself down. That goes back to what I was talking about a safe place. None of us are going to feel safe just by deciding, oh, I should feel safe now, because your neurons are not connected to knowing the Remind. Sorry, everyone. This is still being a challenge, isn't it? Okay, so let's just go on to the next question. What exactly is the purpose of having an imaginary safe place? What am I supposed to do with this in everyday life? Well, that I think I've already answered. The point of having an imaginary safe place is that you can go there, you can hold yourself, you can love yourself, you can feel that you're worthwhile. I now will just try to see if we can answer somebody who's actually ticked saying they've raised their hand. And so I'm going to invite Sandra, first of all. If you, Sandra, would like to turn on your sound and see what happens if you try to ask me the question, because we've nearly run out of time, but let's just try this. Okay, Sandra, can you speak? And maybe I have to click, no, that isn't in it. Sandra, I'm just trying to find your name. Ooh, Sandra, sorry about this. Gosh, how much I want to talk to all of you who are listening in, seeing what what wonderful people all of you are. Sandra, I can't see your name on the list of attending, so I would ask if somebody else would like to put up their hand and ask a question. We've just got time for one question. And Lisa, as you were asking before, I think you can now speak. Can you try it, Lisa, and let us just see? Can you speak, Lisa? Lisa, are you able to speak? No, this isn't working. So I'll let Sky see if Sky can ask a question because she is a host with me. So Sky, would you like to try and speak? And no, that's not working either. So I think I want to say in final comments to everyone, with apologies that I haven't been able to speak to you personally, but we will be able to in the future, and we have to make it happen. It's such a wonderful group of people. I'm just so happy to be doing this first webinar with you all. I think it's a really important way that we can connect. We will make it so that we can talk and interact and hear each other, because I think that would be really, really helpful. And I just hope that this very first time you have been able to find some information that was helpful and feel connected with all of us at Heal for Life. Because for me, there's nothing more important than us all feeling connected and helping ourselves on our healing journey. And please remember, to feel safe, you have to love yourself. The beginning of everything is loving yourself. Love yourself enough to recognize you have the right to feel safe. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you shortly. Thank you.